Welcome to another episode of Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your injected host, Dom, and in today's new episode, we take a look at the 2024 body horror film, written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. I'm probably butchering that. It's probably like Fargeat, because she's French. The Substance. Have you ever dreamed of a better version of yourself? You, only better in every way? Seriously, you gotta try this new project. It's called The Substance. It changed my life. It generates another you. A new, younger, more beautiful, more perfect you. And there's only one rule. You share time. 1 week for you. 1 week for the new you. 7 days each. A perfect balance. Easy, right? If you respect the balance. What could possibly go wrong? Fading star Elisabeth Sparkle, who after being fired by her producer due to her age, uses a black market drug that creates a younger version of herself with unexpected side effects. So let's inject something strange and get into The Substance. After the critical success of Revenge in 2017, Coralie Fargeat found herself in high demand, even being considered to direct Marvel's Black Widow. However, the prospect of a big studio film didn't appeal to her because she wouldn't have final cut privilege, which was a deal breaker for someone as committed to creative control as Fargeat. Instead, she chose to write The Substance. That was as a spec script, beginning the first scenes at a coffee shop in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And to ensure she maintained full creative control, she took on the role of producer herself. The journey to bring The Substance to life was a long one, spanning 5 years from concept to release. Eric Fellner, a co-founder of Working Title Films, was so impressed by Revenge that he flew to Paris multiple times to convince Fargeat to let his company produce her next project. Over 2 years, Fargeat developed the screenplay, loosely inspired by her short film Reality Plus. Written in both English and French, the script was crafted with English-speaking audiences in mind to maximize its global appeal. Fargeat's writing style is unique, and out of the script's 146 pages, only 29 were dedicated to dialogue. Instead, she focused on sensory details, sounds, visuals, and even specific camera shots to create a visceral experience for the audience. The Substance continues Fargeat's exploration of feminist themes, particularly around societal expectations of women's bodies and aging. She began writing the film in her 40s, a time when she was grappling with her own insecurities about relevance and appearance, and she described the process as a way to confront and release the internalized violence tied to those societal pressures. And Fargeat's body horror isn't just a genre, it's a weapon of expression, as she says. And the film's protagonist, Elisabeth Sparkle, is a former actress turned aerobics instructor, which is a nod to Jane Fonda's career transition. Fargeat chose the name Elisabeth for its iconic resonance with old Hollywood stars, and Sparkle to invoke happiness and the desire to shine into the light. Elizabeth's yellow jacket symbolizes her superhero-like quality, while Sue, her younger counterpart, wears a pink leotard to signify femininity. Sue's name was chosen to evoke Lolita and Marilyn Monroe, playing into classic beauty standards that Fargeat critiques. One of the most pivotal scenes in the film, the birth scene, was the first one for Fargeat, the first one that Fargeat wrote. She conceived of it while in the shower, describing it as the core DNA of the movie. It's a visceral, wordless sequence designed to make the audience feel what the characters are experiencing. And Fargeat knew early on that the main character had to be an actress to fully explore societal perceptions of bodies and aging, because that's what happens when stars age, right? We kind of just tend to, oh, you hit that point in your, oh, okay, so now you've moved from playing the main character to playing the old lady, the old maid, the old grandma or whatever. I mean, that's what they used to do. I mean, they still do it now. Obviously, that's what she's critiquing, but it was more prevalent. I would say prior to even the 2010s, like it was big, and I mean, even like I said, it's even now. Casting was a challenge, given the film's minimal dialogue and resilience on physicality. Elisabeth Sparkle needed to be played by a real-life icon, someone who knew at the heart of her, someone who had been at the heart of the star system. Demi Moore wasn't Fargeat's first choice. Several actresses declined the role before Moore's name came up. Fargeat initially thought Moore would never take on such a daring project, but to her surprise, Moore was intrigued. After reading Fargeat's autobiography and seeing her resilience, Fargeat felt Moore was the perfect fit. Moore, for her part, was drawn to the script's bold exploration of aging and identity. She saw the film as a risk. It could either be a cultural shift or a fucking disaster, but she was willing to push herself outside her comfort zone. Moore's character, Elisabeth, is a woman who has dedicated her life to her career only to face its erosion. Moore saw parallel to Fargeat's own struggles, with Elisabeth representing the director and Sue symbolizing the girl from the 90s Fargeat felt pitted against. Margaret Qualley, who plays Sue, was equally drawn to the project. She saw it as an opportunity to play a character far removed from herself. Qualley trained for months to achieve Sue's sex symbol physique, even lifting weights and practicing her character's physicality at home, much to the amusement or concern of her husband, Jack Antonoff. Originally, Ray Liotta was cast as Harvey, but after his tragic passing in 2022, Dennis Quaid stepped into the role. And let's not forget the mysterious Substance voice, who was voiced by Jan Bean, an American actor living in Paris. Fargeat wanted to voice that was devilish, tempting, and powerful, and it was a perfect film for the film's unsettling tone. Music also played a huge role in shaping the film. Fargeat listened to experimental composers like Michael Levy, whose score for Under the Skin inspired the film's pulsating, heartbeat-like rhythm, which is a pretty goddamn good movie if you haven't seen it, Under the Skin. She also draws from hypersexualized music to influence the Inverse Pump It Up show, adding another layer of critique on societal expectations. An unflinching exploration of aging, identity, and the pressure placed on women's bodies. This is The Substance.
People always ask for something new. It's inevitable. At 50, well, it stops.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. One single injection unlocks your DNA and will release another version of yourself. This is The Substance.
I'm Sue.
You're hired.
Let's go.
A perfect balance of 7 days each. The one and only thing not to forget. You are one. You can't escape from yourself.
There's been a slight misuse of the substance.
This balance is not working.
stop? Would you like to stop?
I'm fine. Everything's fine. You have to control yourself! Old, fat, fucking...
People are gonna love that.
On her 50th birthday, Elisabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, a once revered Academy Award-winning Hollywood icon, faces a harsh reality check. Fired from her long-running aerobics TV show by producer Harvey, played by Dennis Quaid, who coldly cites her age as the reason. Elisabeth is left reeling. As she drives away, distracted by the sight of her billboard being dismantled, she crashes her car. Waking up in the hospital, she's handed a cryptic flash drive by the young nurse, played by Robin Greer, advertising the substance, a mysterious black market drug promising to create a younger, more beautiful, more perfect version of oneself. Desperate and intrigued, Elisabeth orders the substance and injects the single-use activator serum. What follows is a grotesque yet mesmerizing transformation. Her body convulses as a younger version of herself, a woman in her 20s, emerges from a slit in her back. The two bodies are now bound by a strict rule. They must switch consciousnesses every 7 days, with the inactive body remaining unconscious and sustained by a weekly supply of intravenous nutrients. To maintain the new body, daily injections of stabilizer fluid, extractions from Elisabeth's original form are essential. Without them, the new body will deteriorate. The younger version, who names herself Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, quickly becomes a sensation. After auditioning to replace Elisabeth on the aerobics show, Sue lands the job and is soon offered the coveted role of hosting the network's prestigious New Year's Eve special. While Sue thrives in her newfound fame, embracing a hedonistic lifestyle, Elisabeth spirals into self-loathing and isolation. The two share a consciousness, but their relationship grows increasingly toxic. Elisabeth resents Sue for her reckless disregard of the switching schedule, which accelerates her aging, while Sue is disgusted by Elisabeth's self-destructive habits and binge eating. Tensions reach a breaking point when Sue, after a night of partying, delays the switch to spend time with a man, causing Elisabeth's body to rapidly age. Elisabeth contacts a substance supplier, who warns her that breaking the rules will lead to irreversible consequences. Despite their shared origin, Elisabeth and Sue begin to see themselves as separate entities, each harboring a deep hatred for each other. Sue, fed up with Elisabeth's despair, stockpiles the stabilizer fluid and refuses to switch back, leaving Elisabeth trapped in her deteriorating body. 3 months later, on the eve of the New Year's Eve telecast, Sue runs out of stabilizer fluid. Forced to switch back, she finds Elisabeth transformed into a frail, elderly hunchback. Horrified, Elisabeth orders a termination serum to end Sue's existence. But at the last moment, she hesitates, unable to let go of the admiration Sue's celebrity status brings her. She resuscitates Sue, leaving both of them conscious. Realizing Elisabeth's initial intent, Sue attacks her in a fit of rage, killing her in a brutal confrontation before leaving to host the New Year's special. However, without stabilizer fluid, Sue's body begins to decay rapidly. In a desperate attempt to save herself, she uses the remaining activator serum to create a new version, ignoring the single-use warning. The result is a horrifying mutation, a grotesque fusion of Elisabeth and Sue, dubbed Monstro e la Sue, with both faces grotesquely merged. Wearing a mask cut from a poster of Elisabeth, Monstro storms the studio and attempts to host the show, but her appearance sends the audience into chaos. When an audience member decapitates her, a new, even more monstrous head grows back, and her arm breaks off, drenching the studio in blood. Monstro flees the scene, but collapses and explodes into a pool of viscera. From the gore, Elisabeth's original face emerges, crawling onto her neglected star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In her final moments, she hallucinates being adored by a crowd before melting into a puddle of blood. The next morning, a floor scrubber cleans up the remains, erasing the last traces of Elisabeth Sparkle's tragic downfall. Now let's move on to some trivia about the film The Substance and learn some things about the behind the scenes, the production, and the actors. Demi Moore said she was nervous about filming full nudity at age 59 and felt vulnerable, but she credited co-star Margaret Qualley, who was 29 at the time of filming and portrayed a younger version of the character, with making her feel more comfortable on set. Qualley also performed totally naked. And as I had stated earlier, Qualley got into really good shape, great physique to play this role, and I feel like Demi Moore did as well. I know she did, and like it's amazing because they both look amazing in this film. I mean, outside of just like the them being nude for a good portion of the film, but I mean, just like even like when she's like just being walking around in like her normal clothes, like Demi Moore still looks amazing, and it just goes to show you like this is what, and I'll probably talk about this in my final thoughts. Like this is like what the male dominated industry has kind of been pushed to be like you're only worth what you are with what you like. You can show what you can. You know what I mean? Like especially for women, and like she had said, like she wasn't sure if she was even right for this role at her age. And it's like, but that's the role was written for someone who is older, and especially like a woman who's older, and like Hollywood likes to do to like a women who are older, they just kind of discount them, like, oh yeah, oh okay, well we'll move on to the next young person now. And I'm so glad that like we're moving away from that more so than we've done before. Like now that we have because if this was a film from years ago, it would have been a big spectacle that like, oh, you're having this old actress, a 59-year-old, oh she's so old, portraying, and they would have made her like portrayed as like some kind of like grandma. I bet because you see it like with movies, even from like the late 90s into the 2000s, like these older actresses who are still only like 50s, 60s, being portrayed as like these, like, oh, they can only portray like these old white haired, like, oh, I'm so old, I have to use a cane, I can't walk anymore, or you know what I mean? Like, it just sucks. And then also, like, on the flip side, like, look at Margaret Qualley. She did it for herself, right? To get into, she was already cast in that in the role of Sue, but she did it to be, she understood like what the role is supposed to be and what the character's supposed to look like, and so obviously she knew like, okay, I got to get into shape for this. My body has to look a certain way to portray this type of character, but it's the same thing. It's like it's the other side of the coin where like the male dominated society and industry has pushed like these younger women that's like, oh, you have to look a certain way. You can't be over this amount of weight. You can't be this tall. You can't be this short. You can't be. Why? I don't think being short is a big. I think it's more so like being taller. You can't be this. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to be perfect in every single way. And it's like even when you're older, like, oh, you have to be this. You have to be that. And I'm so glad that like they decided to do this, because this, and honestly, it's going to lead into this second trivia point. But that's why she was nominated for an Academy Award, Demi Moore. And I think Margaret Qualley could have been at least nominated. I know there are tons more performances that are way better, but she did a really good job as well. Margaret Qualley. I think eventually she's going to be nominated for something. I've been watching her since she was in The Leftovers. I think was like the first thing. If not, then it was some of these like independent films that she's been in here now and then. She was in also Drive Away Dolls, which if you haven't seen that movie, go ahead and check that one out. That one was a pretty funny movie. Yeah, and I'm gonna get into more in my final thoughts. So this is the 7th horror film nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. The first 6 films were, the first one was The Exorcist, obviously, because, I mean, it was The Exorcist. Honestly, I think a lot of other films could have been nominated for that, but you got to remember the Academy. I mean, it took them a while to even do other things. Jaws was the second one. After that, Silence of the Lambs. Then we got The Sixth Sense, Black Swan, and then just more recently was Get Out. Of these films, only The Silence of the Lambs has won. And it's very disappointing because there are a lot of, I mean, yes, there were, like, through the 80s, there was a lot of junk. But like, every once in a while, I would say up until, like, 2016, 2017, there was a lot of junk, but there were some standouts in there, like The Sixth Sense. You could have had something like, honestly, you could have had something like Scream. I know it sounds ridiculous, but for when you look at what was nominated through the 90s, that could have been nominated over a lot of other things. And then more recently, like, we've had a lot of, like, bangers that honestly feel like they should have been nominated. Even this year. Like, we had Hereditary. That could have been nominated for Best Picture. We had another one. The Witch could have been. The Lighthouse could have been. Let's see, what else? I think even, like, It could have been. We know that, like, Us. Get Out was nominated. Why wasn't Us? I think Us was a great follow-up to Get Out. Nope was another great follow-up. Third film from what's his name? I want to say Key and Peele, but it's not Key and Peele. It's Jordan Peele. That's right. And even just like there's things that come along that it's like, wow, like that was a great film. Why was that? And more recently, this past year in 2024, Nosferatu was not nominated, and honestly, it was way better. I've seen, as of recording, I've seen 6 of the 10 films that have been nominated, and of those, I mean, Nosferatu is better than most of those. I would say it wasn't better than, I don't know if it was probably on par with Dune 2, but it was better than Conclave. It was better than Emilia Perez for sure. It was better than Wicked. It was, and anyone who's even like who would have voted for Wicked, I think, like, could have voted for Nosferatu also, because like it did the like that, like the thing of like oh, this is like a world you have to like create, right, with like the sets and everything, and the surrounding environment. And I think that honestly, that could have been nominated. Lily Rose Depp, too. She should have been nominated for maybe supporting actress, best actress, because it's the same thing like we've seen before, like Toni Collette in Hereditary, Florence Pugh in Midsummer. Midsummer also could have been nominated. Lupita Nyong'o for Us. She plays 2 roles in that film, and each one is distinct and has their own voice, and it's ridiculous. Even, I mean, this past year, even like something like A Quiet Place Day One, which I thought was going to be kind of like We're getting another one because I was like, the first one's okay. It's not. I don't think it's as great as everyone says. The second one I thought is a lot better, and then this one came out, and I was like, we're getting another one, and it was way better than the first two, and it has such a compelling. And she could have been nominated for that as well. And Lupita Nyong'o is a great actress, and she deserves to win again because she's won for supporting. I think she needs to win for Best Actress. It's despicable with what the Academy does with its Best Actress. It likes to play a lot of favorites. I'll say that. Director Coralie Fargeat, a staunch advocate for practical effects, sought to minimize the use of VFX throughout the film. Her vision demanded a visceral, hands-on approach that would bring the grotesque and disturbing elements of the story to life. Prosthetics and makeup effects designer Pierre-Olivier Person embarked on a multi-stage transformation, beginning with Demi Moore. For almost 7 hours, Moore sat for the application, transforming into a grotesque creature that the team affectionately nicknamed Gollum due to its uncanny resemblance. This was just the beginning. Actress Margaret Qualley then took the reins, completing the horrifying metamorphosis. She was adorned in a full-body suit, with extra body parts that culminated in the entity known as Monstro. Person told GQ, the original designs were more masculine, and Coraline wanted something more feminine than just a rubber monster. She wanted to have an elephant man sensibility, a tragic quality. In the climax of the film, audiences are witness to a horrific scene where blood shoots out of the mutated final form from every orifice. The special effects team employed an actual fire hose alongside 30,000 gallons of fake blood to achieve this, creating a truly unforgettable spectacle of gore. Because it was hard to move with the suit, the stunt performer was on a little trolley. As soon as they switched the blood rig on for the first time, she went rolling backward toward down that long, shining-like hallway. Person explains. The full-body foam latex suit proved challenging to maintain after being drenched in fake blood. The substance showcases the artistry and technical skill that underpin truly unforgettable and disturbing cinematic experiences. And I may have to look it up, but I don't know if it was nominated for costume or makeup, or because honestly it could have been just for that. Like, I love when they want to do as much, because they're like, special effects are a double-edged sword again, where if you're good at the VFX, if you have a great team behind those VFX, you could use that through the whole film. But if you have a great team that's good at these practical effects, you can do in camera, you can show it has weight, it's there on set. It's not just something that, it's not a tennis ball that people are trying to figure out what's there. And that also helps a lot more with actors on set. And I think having as much to practical is amazing. It's crazy too that 30,000 gallons of fake blood just to, and one thing was that Coralie Fargeat, she took the hose herself at one point to spray on the audience that gets sprayed, the actors that get sprayed with the blood, or in the audience, quote unquote, which I think is actually pretty hilarious. But yeah, I love when they go for these practical effects, and I love that Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley were like, yeah, shit, put it on me, let's do this. I'm glad they're not the type of person who's like, no, I'm not gonna sit for 7 hours to do this, or I don't want to put that bodysuit on or anything. They're willing to, and yeah, maybe they don't do it the whole time. Maybe, like you said, the stunt performers also, in there on the suit having to move around too, which I think, going back to the Academy, I think they need their own award as well. But moving back, I love when they do as much practical effects, or they just incorporate the practical with the special, Like that's what Star Wars has been doing more recently. They've been incorporating practical and special effects together, and I think that works the best because you get this idea, or you get the feeling, the weight that's there, that the prop is actually there, that the person's actually there, and then you can add on. You can just add on to it. You can that's what VFX is meant to be for. Is meant to enhance, not to like what George Lucas did, which is he just replaced everything with special effects, and it's like, yeah, but why would you replace it when you could just enhance? Whatever. Remember that was the late '90s when they thought that computers were gonna just take over everything, and now we've gotten to the point where it's like it helps, but most people, like we had years of just nothing but special effects thrown at us, and people get kind of exhausted by that. And seeing real practical effects, I think, makes them go, oh. Guillermo del Toro uses a lot of practical effects, and you can see it in his work. It's like, oh yeah, see, this is what people want. Yeah. But yeah, I really hope this is. Was this nominated? I don't remember. Like I said, I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up later. But for now, let's get into my final thoughts. So I remember seeing this like when it came out last year, and I was already like, yeah, this was probably one of the better movies of the year. This is, I think, after Long Legs, but before Nosferatu. But I was still anticipating Nosferatu to probably be one of the best films of the year. I ranked this really pretty high. I think I put this at third or fourth. This was from my overall like list of best horror films of 2024. It wasn't better than Long Legs. Long Legs was my favorite film from last year, and Nosferatu was number two. It was like they were like right there neck and neck, and it was really hard to choose. But overall, I think Long Legs really knocked it further out of the park than a lot of people give it credit for. I think a lot of people not necessarily don't like it. It's just they had problems with it where I didn't. And Nosferatu, I think same thing where I think they had problems with it where I was like, I don't know what your problem is. Honestly, don't know what your problem is. But anyways, getting back to the substance, from beginning to end, it's a solid film. It's so good. I love the direction. The cinematography is great. There's shots in it that are just homages to like other things. There's like the hallway where it looks like The Shining, and you get all those the photos of her, of Elisabeth Sparkle, all along the wall. And then when they take all those down, and then they have the one. I think it's just like one of Elizabeth, or sorry, Elizabeth. It's Sue, and like when she gets it, and then just like, even though Dennis Quaid is a horrible garbage person, like I think he plays that role of like Harvey. He's supposed to be Harvey Weinstein. Wink, 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 wink. I think he plays it really, really good. Like I don't know if that's just because he's a terrible person that he was able to play it good, or because he's known Harvey Weinstein probably for his whole life. So yeah, there's he plays that role pretty well. The scene where he's just eating the shrimp, I think it is. It's just disgusting. But getting to like the powerhouse of the film, obviously Demi Moore. I think she does an amazing job with what she's given. Her acting in this is pretty good. It's right on. She plays that fading kind of aging star who, and more, and even from before, but more recently, where it's like they're like, yeah, oh, okay, you won an Academy Award, wow. And then they kind of shuffle you off to do like a TV show or something. And yeah, you do pretty good on there, but then they're like, well, you're too old, and they just kind of get rid of you, and then they're like, they replace you with someone younger. And it's disgusting that, Hollywood, and even just outside of Hollywood, in this kind of, like I said, male dominated world where this patriarchy has made it so that, when women get to just beyond like their like even into their 30s, where they start being like taken less seriously, they get shuffled off to be, oh, you'll just be instead of being my secretary, you'll be over here in the back and put away where we don't have to see you because we got a nice young thing now coming in here. And then the younger person gets exploited, and it causes this whole thing of like, now the older lady's mad at the younger girl for taking her place, when it's like you both should be mad at the men for shuffling you off and bringing in this new person who all they want to do is have for eye candy, just to be able to be like, yeah, look at her, oh yeah, hey honey, can you get me this? And like, it still happens. It still happens today. And even though, Time's Up and Me Too and everything, like that kind of helped to kind of quell a little bit, but like it's still persistent here in all these different cultures where they just kind of, and especially here in the United States, where it's just like, oh, just be seen, don't be heard, don't be acting up, don't be doing this. Like, well, you can't just stay home and take care of the kids. And that's kind of where like certain politicians and certain people around here like want it to be, when it's like, they're people, they're humans, they're just like you. They want, they need, they love, they feel, they hurt, everything. Like they run the gamut of all the emotions you do. And I get that, like we have a problem with, just taking people's emotions and kind of just flushing them down the toilet. Like, oh, you're a guy, so you got to be hard. You can't have any kind of female emotions. But then as soon as a woman, tries to act on her emotions, whoa, don't calm down. Oh, don't start acting up. Oh, what? You're yelling? Oh, don't yell. You got to smile, because you got to be peppy and happy, because if you're not, then that guy, the boss man is going to be like, oh, so you don't even want to be here? Oh, you don't even like, oh, look at, why aren't you smiling? And it's just like this despicable, horrible culture. And I'm glad that like that, we're moving past this, but not fast enough. And films like this help to challenge that, to show you like, look at what you do. Look at what you do to these people. And you push them to a point where, like they'll try anything. She'll try the substance just to grasp what that high that originally she got from being in the center of attention. And yeah, maybe that's a little bit on her, because it's like she chose to take the substance, but who's driving her to do that? It's this industry that Harvey, the quote unquote producer, is part of. That's like, well, you're past your prime, get out of here. When it's like, instead, why don't you find a role that is meant, like, that is not just meant for her, but like a role that suits her better. Or, you could, like, that's what I like about like what we've had in like the past few years. We've decided that, like, oh, you know what, older women can still be, like these women in charge and in power, and take on the lead roles of films. They don't have to just be like you're the grandma or the old maid, or some old lady who just wanders around or whatever. But getting back again, like I said, when we were talking about the practical effects, they're amazing. Like, I love the way that they subtly at first, she goes from being, having like her finger all twisted and old, like an old witch's finger, and then like her eye and her hair, and then it's just like slowly and how like they start messing with each other. Like it's so funny because it's like they're the same person, but like they start acting so differently and start like and it's just like this great like commentary on like, yes, you're pitting two women against each other, but they're essentially the same woman, and the way you're doing it is by being like, look at how old this one is, look how young and fresh this one is, and you're pitting them against it when it's like I said, who's at fault really? It's society and what our expectations are of each of them. And then just like I love the idea of having like her billboard right outside like the of her apartment, and she can see it. And then like when she gets back to being Demi Moore and she's upset with her, she puts all the newspaper up and shuts herself in and binge eats. And then then like Margaret Qualley's character Sue, she starts, when she gets back, she's like, like all the things that she ate and everything, and it's like for her, she's like, she's getting mad at her, so she throws. And I love that they build like that room in the bathroom to like hide each other, and she just hides her away, and then like even just taking down of like her photo, the big photo she has of herself, and it's so it's just it was such a great film. Honestly, I like that it was nominated for Best Picture. I think Nosferatu probably should have been nominated for Best Picture instead of this, but I think I see why it was nominated because of the commentary it's giving on like I said, on women and expectations of women, especially as they grow older. And this movie, I think, does a great job with asking those questions, with showing you like the consequences of those actions and what they can do, and the fact that like we're not attacking the people who really deserve to be attacked in this situation. And I'd say I give this one, what did I give? I think I gave it 4 stars. Let me just double check. And yeah, Caroline Fargeat does an amazing job. And honestly, I think she said she had written this because of her experiences after Revenge and this and that. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. A solid film. Highly recommend it. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing. Like always, I don't know why you're listening to this prior to watching a film. I know there's some people who like to be spoiled and they'll go and read the Wikipedia or whatever, but I don't like doing that. I would rather see something before I know what it's about. But yeah, other than that, this is an Oscar nominated film. Oscar nominated for actress, and when this comes out, it'll actually be on the night of the Oscars. So hopefully, we'll see. Maybe this wins. Maybe, and I'm as we've seen so far from her, kind of her, she's been on a like fast track through moving through these awards. Demi Moore, I think, is gonna win the Best Actress for Substance, and hopefully with this we start getting more horror films nominated for Best Picture. Not just like great, like they surpass like what it means to be a horror, but I just mean, come on, like there are a lot of great horror films from before that could have been nominated for Best Picture, and I don't understand why they like to. I think the Academy just has it. Like they're having a hard time coming to terms with the idea that they're gonna be 100 in 3 more years. In 2028, it's gonna be the 100th Oscars, and times have changed. Times have changed. years ago, and they need to, get up to date with, audiences now. And I think that's why a lot of their ratings have been down for years. It's like, because you're not taking into account what real people like. Yeah, you guys invited all these like younger people, you invited all these like people of color, but it's not enough. You still are too old and white and male dominated. But hopefully something like this can help, with and as Amelia Perez was a better movie, I feel like that too. But this one I definitely can help shape the future of the Academy Award. Would you take Some of the Substance? Did it deserve a Best Picture nomination? Would you try The Substance? It looks like it hurts a lot, so maybe. We want to thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any personal or fictional, paranormal, supernatural, or unexplainable stories? We'd love to read them on the podcast. Please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can follow our socials on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, or check out our YouTube channel, all at Horrorbox Podcast on all sites. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It really helps out. Until next time, beauty is in somebody's eyes. This is Dom, signing off from the Horrorbox.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Where is she? Oh! There she is! Wonderful. Wonderful.